Okay, here we go again. So I'm going to explain to you that the confusing first promise in my promise list, and I try to explain to you why it's completely necessary. And this is the promise of a constitutional change. When a motion is brought to the council, it should be voted on as well as any amended versions if presented. So, as a member of the borough council, the difference between being a parish council, just an activist or anyone, you can get involved in all sorts of things, but the council's there ultimately to vote in favour of motions. And some of them might be constitutional changes. And as you know, my biggest concern is cronyism within our local borough council. So, should a group decide to present an amended version, which they often do, if it gets in the way of, if it causes transparency, the effects and purposes of the differences of the original must be discussed and agreed, which we say, okay, right, you've said something that means that I'm going to have to be more transparent, and I've amended it to mean almost nothing, literally almost nothing. Now, those differences will now have to be logged. Should councillors who do not vote in favour of the original but vote in favour of the amended will be considered to have voted against those differences, because normally the vote won't continue, because the majority, if they vote in favour of the amended version, then don't have to vote on the next version. It's considered to have been, there's no difference recognised. If they vote against the amended version, then it carries on to the main vote. I don't understand the vote. So just getting rid of that loophole. And I'm just going to give you an example of, this is unfortunately not the best example, it's not particularly sinister, but it does have a load of meaninglessness, which I'm sure you will enjoy immensely. So what we've got here, as I start this little video rolling, I left a little bit of sound there so you can hear it. I'll turn it down a little bit. We've got David Lee there talking away. He's the leader of the Conservative Party. Then we've got the mayor of the borough council, the mayor of the town council, and Andy Caldrick, who is the chief executive. So he's like the top employed person. Remember, we've got this differential here. We have lots of employed councillors earning a living wage, and then you've got lots of voluntary type people. They call themselves volunteers, but theoretically, most of the people sitting here are getting £8,000-ish per year, and they would only basically have to attend. They don't even have to, but as a minimum, they would attend one of these 4-hour meetings every month. Pretty good going, I think. That's why I'd like that figure to be lower, but then again, no one ever seems to want to stand. I'm interested to see why. That's why I'm getting a little bit involved. But I might not be as involved as some people, because I'm just trying to motion through transparency and kick up a stink. Anyway, so this was the motion. Motion 351, submitted by D. Tomlin. Not sure who that is. We recognise the difficult budget constraints the council faces in the coming year. Therefore, when setting the next budget, this council will prioritise the provision of services for the benefit of public residents over other areas. Now, I'm not really sure what that means. I'm guessing that means that the council, whose job it is to provide services for the public, will prioritise the provision of services for the benefit of the public, and value for money, which is also a legal requirement, funnily enough. The council is legally required to provide value for money, but for some reason their contracts seem way over what one would normally expect to pay were they doing something themselves. Then bloated great big contracts, and you get no breakdown of costs. So can't prove it, and of course that's one of the reasons I'm for the transparency, because I think as long as you've got people who can't be checked upon, that's when things start to go wrong. The idea of the Localism Act is that local members of the public, like myself or you, can say, I want to see that contract. And every time the council say, nope, it's commercially sensitive. Well, so if you get all your buddies to do some deals, and you got your little small holding in the south of France growing ever bigger because money moves in all sorts of wondrous ways, there's no way of checking whether or not Joe Blogs down the road, his quote would have been a lot better. Ultimately, that's what we've got to be able to do, and we can't. Anyway, the amended motion. Be careful, you might miss what the difference is. We recognise the difficult budget constraints the council faces the coming year. Therefore, when setting the new budget, this council will prioritise the provision of services for the benefit of the public according to our underpinning principles. They also provided that on another sheet, or we had it on our kind of book. It's like, you get given a book, every meeting, a book, this thick, printed paper. They also printed onto this green sheet of paper, all these little green sheets here, dotted around. There's a television in the corner there, and there's a television over there. They could have had it on the screen, but no, we printed paper for everyone, for that little space. They could have shared. They got one each. One between 3 would have been fine, surely. No, they got 1 each for these 1, 2, 3, 4 lines of meaningless waffle. And it is meaningless, it's exactly the same thing. We prioritise the provision of services for the benefit of quality according to our underpinning principles. So we as a borough have underpinning principles, which keeps changing. Is it to be? Well, it doesn't change, but we keep talking. The main thing is talk about a great place to live, even greater place to do business. So underpinning principles are for excellent value for your council tax, which every council has to do. And it's almost like just take that out because it's meaningless. Provide affordable homes. Okay, that's good. Yeah, and we are. I don't think we're doing it as well as if we did a compulsory purchase for ISDLs and then sold the plots to people and then to developers, and then we would use some of that money to develop our own bits interspersed, and then we'd probably end up with more affordable homes as a percentage, because otherwise you've got too much money going to speculative landowners. But I think that's probably the reason why the game is played. Look after the vulnerable, brilliant, who can argue with that? Improve health, well-being and quality of life. Great. Again, it's meaningless waffle because it doesn't really mean anything, but yeah, well, okay, I'm being mean here because we've got some great play parks. Also, I was in Bracknell today, they've got some great play parks, but we've got some too. Whether or not the contracts are being inflated, I don't know enough to judge those, but not too bad. You know, what they've done at Dinton recently was 500,000, and then when they were batting around 3 million for the one that they were going to do on Elmsfield, I was a bit like, that just batted a figure around. We've got 3 million, and they started attacking that straight away. And I'm glad that kind of figure as an idea for giving a contract to a friend for doing a garden has disappeared. Anyway, maintain and improve the waste collection, recycling and fuel efficiency. I never got involved in the argument about the blue bags. I think the blue bags work great, and I'll tell you why. Because Christmas and birthdays and whatnot and parties, you can have lots of them, and then you can be cautious most of the time. It's a great way of sorting it out, and you're going to use the bag anyway. If you get into one of those big wheelie things, yeah, I suppose there is that is less bags, but it really is a small proportion. Deliver quality in all that we do. Not sure about that, because I mean this is where we get people who excuse themselves paying double. You know, this is what when the flats above Boots, 7 flats. Originally, we had some idea that it was like they break down the cost. They refused to share anything, keep hammering for it. It's something we got something like a 3 million figure. There's a 2 million figure. Then last time I heard another council meeting was 1.6, which is slightly more reasonable. Still, renovating a flat, I'd like to see a maximum of £100,000 per flat. Outside of those walls, a couple of 100,000 max. So we're looking at 900,000 as a really kind of good job. And then, so where's the other £700,000 going? So yeah, quality in all that we do. That's you got to be careful with that one, because that can just mean 3 times the price to one of my friends who's just done basically the quality, same workers, same any old person working on it. What's different is the paperwork underneath it. Not every person who can do quality work knows how to do council paperwork. We've got to get rid of this whole council paperwork marker. Anyway. Meaningless waffle. But if there was a difference, it would say that what they've done is they've added looking after the vulnerable and providing affordable homes and waste collection, which is a service anyway, I suppose. Provisions benefit public for residents. I mean, what they've done is they've taken generic and actually heightened above generic vulnerable affordable homes and maintain improved collection of recycling. Which, I mean, I'm an ex-greenie, but I'm still an environmentalist. So yeah, I'm quite happy with this amendment. What we've got here was meaningless waffle. That was meaninglessly waffle. They talked about it for half an hour beforehand, and then they carry on talking about it for another half hour. But this time they're all agreeing with each other. So here you go. Basically, I would like to say something lovely. I am so proud and honoured to support this motion. I'm supporting this motion. I'm supporting this motion. And I'd just like to add that I'm supporting this motion for half an hour. I don't know. I'd probably go mad. I was actually having a bit of a tweet. It was my first film when I filmed. So I was having a bit of a tweet session with who's a Lib Dem, my print, Devon Cat. I know their Twitter handles, and Joe Hansen. We were having a bit of a Twitter communication during that. Otherwise, I would have gone clinically mad. Maybe I am already. But anyway, they're all agreeing with each other, and at the end of it, And if I just kind of for half an hour of agreeing with each other, they pass the motion, lots of bits of green paper, and then we get to see it through. Yes! There's a yes at some point. Yeah, we did it. So we can find it. Anyway, I'm not going to bother to see if we can find it. That's a non-sinister motion. Now, here's that was everyone agreeing. Here's one where the motion was rejected. And so rather not the motion was rejected, the amendment was rejected. Not so long ago, the Tories came up with a, in fact in the last council meeting, it's on their website, and I'll put a little link, it's YouTube so I can link to it. I'll put the time code here in a little, but she's like a little banner here. It's going to take you to the right kind of spot. Basically, the Tories' motion is so that the town council and the borough council and the parish councils or town councils work together to do stuff. Which is kind of like, again, it's a bit kind of wishy-washy rubbish, and of course they do. They talk to each other, they're friends, they're at the same parties, They're a very social organisation, the Conservative, they've got dinner parties and whatnot. So, and they kind of like, so half the people are kind of parish councillors and borough councillors, and they're married to this, and it's all over the shop. They're just this one big interspersed group who socialise together and live politics. So it's kind of a meaningless thing to say, but Lib Dems picked up on the concept. A concept that was, you're not trying to pass on the financial responsibilities, are you? So let's say, for example, we've got some guy in a van who comes around and he picks up old people and he takes them somewhere nice and he brings them back, and that was the borough council's job. And they say, well, no, let's start working with the parish council. Parish councils, you're going to take control of that. We're going to work together on this one. Now, that would make sense if the parish council start saying, okay, right, all of the old people who want this service, you do your emails to our parish councillor, because it's small, it's a parish, that's what it's about the communications therein. And then they would liaise with the borough council. The Lib Dems read into this, I think, further than the plan was, which was, you're not actually going to say, okay, parish council, you sort the van guy out and pay him. I don't think that was the truth of the matter, but either the thing was meaningless anyway. Talk to each other. Yeah, we do talk to each other. We can talk to each other. There's no rules telling us not to, and there's nothing really forcing us to. So that's a meaningless waffle. But if it's not meaningless waffle, and we're actually suggesting that we now have some kind of extra authority to force the parish councils to take on some of our activity responsibilities, and even potentially finance them, the Lib Dems are saying, okay, we're going to put a limit on it. We might be able to force the parish councils to take on some of our responsibilities in an action-based way, but we must finance them. Their add-on was purely, we must take responsibility for costs that were previously ours, rather than pass them on to the parish precept. There's different money going to the borough and to the parish, which would seem fine. An analogy for this would be, I'm going to go for a swim, and you say, oh, I'll hold your wallet for you. And I say, okay, fine. But when I come back and you give me a wallet back, I want to make sure it's got all the same stuff in it, And you say, no, I'm not willing to make that promise. I'll hold your wallet. But I can't guarantee you that it's going to come back with all your stuff in it. Of course, who wouldn't do that? And this is ultimately the same kettle of fish. We're going to hand the responsibility to the parish council. I think it's wishy-washy rubbish, or that's what it means. We can hand some responsibilities over to the parish council, but we're responsible for the costs as well. And so all of the, you see the Conservatives talk about it. They're saying, well, it wasn't, it's not my intention. It's a bit like giving me my wallet to a robber, saying, oh, you're going to run off with that. Well, it's not my intention. Okay. Oh, he's gone. Shouldn't have trusted him, because anybody else would say, yeah, fine, no, of course, with the stuff in there. You don't tell people, you must trust me. You just say, the moment somebody says, no, I can't promise that, you're just going to have to trust me. I can't. It's very easy for me to commit to it in a promised transit manner. I can give you a deposit. It's very easy, but I'm not going to do that. And it's very sad that you're not just going to trust me. Oh dear, what a world we're in is not trust. Just give him the thing. Don't make such a big deal out of it. You shouldn't have to trust people who tell you to trust them implicitly. Are the least trustworthy people, and people get very angry with you when you question them. They're the ones who, in my experience, the ones who shout and scream about how terrible it is not to be trusted the hardest are the liars. That's what's my experience. I've got no problem. I'm not a liar. You don't know that. That's why I will never ask you to trust me implicitly. Simple. So anyway, we had that as the example as not so great, and that's why it's very important that we get that first motion passed. And the second motion is one that the councillors are independently responsible, because so far to date, where I've complained about councillors' conduct, the Anne Hunter and the Democratic Services Department have said we're not going to act on it, and this is a final reason. They always say when it's like the final comment on this matter. I don't know how that works, if it's important to them, but they always come down to on this one, come down to this collective decision. So it seems that the councillors collectively are allowed to do what the hell they want. Well, you've got 43 people who socialise together, who collectively can ignore the rules. Really? Really? Oh, come on. Okay, you're going to change the way you vote, people? Please, come on, get on with it, because our children are screwed.